I'm John Lovitz, and welcome to another episode of Lovitz or Leavitz. And as you can see, I have a new guest, the wonderful comedian Elayne Boosler. By the way, we're coming to you live from the John Lovitz Podcast Theater and Comedy Club at Universal City Walk, and we're on the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.com. Elayne, now, let me get my notes. Oh, I threw them away.
By the way,
you were on Wikipedia.
Oh, I was.
I looked it up. Now it says your father was a Russian acrobat and your mother was a ballerina from Romania. Mm-hmm. And yet you became a comic. You didn't want to become like a dancer who did flips?
No, I did not want to be a dancer who did flips. And, of course, none of that's true. They're not that.
Listen. It sounds like your butt's chewing a water bottle.
Actually, I believe there are mice in the walls.
How?
Yay! Jerry Bruckheimer III! Hooray! John rescued a doggie, which is close to my heart. Anyone who rescues, he's the best. He's the best. He's the cutest little boy in the world.
Oh. That's what he always does. Get down.
Get down and boogie.
He's very cute and very immature.
He's lovely. Well, he'll grow out of it.
By the way, before I forget, you have a show coming up.
I do. It's on this. Look. You do it.
Well, it's hard to see.
You're the host.
It's at the Glendale Philharmonic.
How do you like that?
So we're going to get tickets. It's a show. It's that you wrote it, and it's with a...
It is a classical rendition of a little show I wrote called Rescue, a true story, since I run an animal rescue. And it's the first piece written for cello, clarinet, piano, and comedian. It's Sunday, October 6th at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and it's really a wonderful, wonderful piece.
And where can people get tickets for this?
They can get tickets at GlendalePhil.com or GlendalePhilharmonic.com or call the Glendale Philharmonic. It's at the Glendale Baptist Church, which seats a huge amount of people, and it's great acoustics, and it raises money for rescue, and it's really a funny and sad and funny piece.
And who wrote the music?
Carol Worthy wrote the music, great classical composer. I wrote the story, and I'll be doing the narration. It's kind of like our Peter and the Wolf. There hasn't been a new Peter and the Wolf in...
And it's about animals?
Well, it's about a particular dog's story, but it's really every rescue dog's story, and it's a wonderful piece. It's a lovely piece, and it's really fun to be working with. I've never done anything, this is way outside of my comfort zone.
You've never done anything what?
Classical, or with, cellist and a clarinet and piano. I mean, these are great musicians, and they were kind enough to say...
Have you rehearsed the show yet?
We have rehearsed the show.
How's it going?
Well, I have no musical abilities whatsoever, which is the reason I
thought you were a singer.
Oh, yeah, but I'm only a good singer for a comic, and I'd be a great ballerina for a comic.
But you've sang the national anthem at baseball games.
But you are a singer. You are a singer.
Well, I like to sing.
Yeah.
I let other people sing.
I like to sing. What key do you do the anthem in? Where's your high note?
I know, that's the trick.
The high note.
Yeah, because if you start the national anthem too high, when you get to that high note, you can't hit it. And if you start too low, you get to that low note, you can't hit it.
Robert Klein says that it was written for geese.
So let me think. I started. Oh, say.
Can you see? Robert Klein says it was written for geese, and when you hit the high note, you go.
The dawn's early light.
What so proudly we hailed. Well, we got your dog's
Well, you sound like an opera singer.
I do, don't I?
He's looking at me like I'm nuts.
That would be so high for me to hit Of the Free. Of the Free. Look at your dog.
You hit it. So you made Andy Kaufman laugh, and he's considered one of the greatest comics ever. So he was your boyfriend, and you lived together for 3 years?
We did. We lived together for about 2 years in Greenwich Village in New York, West 12th Street, and then we stayed friends the whole next 12 years of his life. And he was the love of my life until I met my husband many years later, and he was probably the only guy I've ever seen really work without a net. I mean, everybody has some kind of fallback, and he just put it out there, and I think he's so misunderstood.
Yeah, that's my question, because I saw him on Saturday Night Live when he did Mighty Mouse. I remember that and just thinking it was hilarious, and on Taxi. But I never really, and then the wrestling thing, but I never knew which I wanted to ask you, what was he really like off stage? What was he like as a person? I mean, you kind of imitate him there, but what was he like? Any of that similar?
Well, you know, he was just the most fun you could ever have. And I think he's been so ill-served by the projects done about him. Most of them have been written or produced by...
Well, the movie where Jim Carrey starred as him,
yeah.
What do you think?
I was very upset about that movie. I never saw it because I couldn't even take it, but I read the script. And they, you know, people love Disease of the Week. No one wants to tell a happy story. So they, you know, in the movie they said, oh, he's sick and crazy. And, you know, he was the furthest thing from sick. He was crazy in the best way possible, and he knew exactly what he was doing. Not to say that he didn't go out on a ledge with it, but he was totally in demand and in control. Sorry, and the only thing that threw him was when people reneged on a deal. For instance, that Fridays bit where he knew he was going to get voted off and not be allowed to come back. He made that. You know, I've never told this, and this was kind of his.
This is an exclusive story.
This is an exclusive story.
An exclusive story from Elayne Boosler, Andy Kaufman's girlfriend for 3 years, and then one of his best friends.
For the rest of his life.
Kaufman. This is an exclusive.
It's an exclusive and a reenactment. So the only person Andy cursed on his deathbed, this has never been said, was Dick Ebersol. Because when Dick Ebersol was running Fridays, Andy came to him with this 3-piece kind of arc for the show where he would wrestle, then they'd vote, and he knew they would vote never to let him back on. And he explained to Dick, then you let me back on the third week, you know, but I sneak on and it's this wonderful, wait a minute. He said, but you can't pull out because I'm telling you now they're going to vote, don't let Andy back on. And then, you know, I sneak on and this whole thing continues and it's very funny, but you can't pull out in the middle. And Dick swore to him he wouldn't.
What do you mean pull out in the middle?
Andy was going to wrestle. He was going to get them against him. And then on the second week, they were going to have a vote. Do we ever let Andy Kaufman back on Fridays? Andy warned Dick Ebersol, they are going to vote. Don't ever let Andy Kaufman back on Fridays. If you don't, of course, my career's over because we're setting this up to make sure they vote.
Right.
But so you have to, the third week, I'm going to sneak onto the show. And then it becomes this great chase thing and this wonderful, you know, nod to old films and blah, blah, blah. Just don't get cold feet when they vote to not let me back on. I'm manipulating it to have them vote to not let me back on. Well, of course, when Dick Ebersol saw the overwhelming vote against letting Andy back on, he pulled out. He said, you can't come back on. And Andy said, you cannot do this to me. This was an arc, a 3-episode arc where we were, you know, manipulating it to be that, and then there was going to be the great payoff later.
Right.
And Dick said, no, you can't come back on. And it did ruin his career. People, you know, he's banned from, and Andy at the end knew. I mean, he was, that day he died, we were at the hospital.
It really ruined his career, you think?
It hurt terribly till the end. And, you know, it really was very bad for his career. You know, towards the end, the year before he died.
Because people thought it was real then.
Yeah, they thought this guy can't be on the show. He can't be trusted. People hate him. No. You know, let me just say this.
Was it even a real vote?
Yeah, the vote was real, but he manipulated it to that.
Right.
You know, he really was the guy. And when he died, I wrote this beautiful Esquire piece, just this love letter about him, without giving away his secrets. And it's you can read it still. You know, I got more mail on that than anything I ever did on my life, and it was people thanking me for letting them have a little look into, you know, how Andy worked and how beautiful he was, because he was. And as I say, if you think you like Andy or his work, skip all the crap that people have done since he died and go just watch his stuff. That's it. Just watch his stuff, go to the source. So yes, it was terrible that this vote was taken seriously and made to look like he didn't know this was going to happen. Okay, a year before he dies, I'm on tour, and we did lots of early stuff together. You know, he loved to walk around telling people, you know, she wrote the blowing up the balloon piece for me. And they go, oh, what's that? And he'd say, well, you know, I blow up a balloon slowly until it breaks. You know, they go, she wrote that? He goes, yeah, she's a genius. And I'd go, don't tell people I wrote that you blow up a balloon until, but I did. I said, you should blow up a balloon until, slowly on stage until it finally, because people are so terrible. And it was a great piece. People will go, you know, it's coming up. And you go, He'd be blowing it up. So we did a lot of innocent writing in the 70s. And then, he realized it had gone darker, because of who he was writing with, how things were going. So the year before he died, before we knew he was ill, I was on the road, and he called me and said, I've got an hour on PBS Soundstage, and I just want to write the show together. Let's go back to the innocence that we had, and let's write the show together. And I said, I'm on the road for the whole year. And he said, well, I'll come on the road with you. So this was 83, 4, I guess. And he came on the road with me. And, in those days, I was doing great. So there'd be like this huge marquee with my name up, and I would have sold out. And then we go next door to Denny's or Fridays or something, and they go, sorry, we're closed. And I say, do you not see my name's like 50 feet high next door? And I said, sorry, we're closed. And then Andy would come in behind me and go, can we get something? And they go, yeah. And I go, I don't get it. I'm next door selling out with my name. I'm nothing.
Because of Taxi.
Well, they loved him. So we get to eat late every night. And we wrote this beautiful soundstage show, which we then, shot in Chicago. And
what's the name of the show?
The show is Andy Kaufman's Soundstage. The piece that you'll know, and all your fans watching this will know, is the argument we had when he was at the 12-foot-high desk, and I'm down at the bottom looking up, and he's just the talk show host, but his desk is 12 feet high, and I'm down here, and he's interviewing me, and it was our, of course, nod to Letterman and everyone's desk being like so high up, but we just made it 12 feet high, and of course his warning to me, because he was a much more subtle performer than I am. I don't have that gift. He would say, don't you do anything jokey. Don't you just sit there like it's the way it's supposed to be. And so we just talked like this, and it broke out into a fight. And the thing I love is, unfortunately, the internet has given such an opening to haters. So you have guys writing on that piece, did you see that stupid bitch? He really, made mincemeat out of her.
Well,
But I want to write. No, you're the little bitch. I wrote it, you idiot.
No, they don't. I did something once with. I'm not comparing it, but it was. Well, it's just going to sound idiotic, but with Pauly Shore on spring break.
I love Pauly.
And Pauly goes, no, I'm not kidding. Pauly, it was fun, and he goes, come down, we'll do an interview, and then we'll make I'm teasing. He said something to me, and then
You'll have a fake
people
fight.
think we're really mad.
Yeah,
I'm really mad. We had a fake fight, and we did it. And afterwards, people were saying they think it's real, and I was like, yes, and because I go, it's good acting. You have to be really. It's hard to do that and have people buy it without thinking it's like just a bit.
Yeah.
But people go like, no, I think Lovitz was really mad at him, but Andy was.
Oh, he.
Remember he got sick. People didn't think he was sick. They thought that was a bit.
I know.
That had to have been horrible for, I guess.
It was horrible. That show was kind of the last thing ever done, really. And then the next time I saw him, he was, maybe 50 pounds lighter and kind of, on the way. But he was just a magnificent soul. And because, like I said, I came out of a terrible situation. And my childhood, I wasn't raised by anyone until I met him. And so when he died,
I beg to differ. I believe you were raised
the wolves
by a Russian acrobat and a Romanian
ballerina. When he died, I lost my mother, my father, my teacher, my family. He was like, he's the reason I'm alive and I can do anything. So
wow, so you guys were really.
Oh my goodness, he got me into transcendental meditation. I didn't miss, for 12 years. Do
you have gas?
I do, and I'm really embarrassed.
Elayne.
I'm so sorry. I gained a little weight.
We're going to clear the air
in
the studio, and we'll be right back with Elayne Boosler on Lovitz or Leavitz.
Upcoming shows to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FYI. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi, everybody. Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Hi, John Lovitz here. It's time to put laughter back into your life. Check out the John Lovitz Comedy Club, located in the heart of Universal Studios City Walk, Los Angeles, not Orlando. For tickets, go to thejohnlovitzcomedyclub.com. Back on Lovitz or Leavitz with Elayne Boosler.
You're the only man I would come out in daylight for.
Hopefully sobered up by now.
Only man.
The woman who's known for comedy and guzzling booze, the Boosler.
And I have a little crack in my purse.
Well, this is very exciting because, as I said to you during the break, I didn't realize, so I looked up that you were so close with Andy Kaufman, and you have great stories you want to tell, so I want to hear about it. You have I remember when I first saw him on Saturday Night Live doing Mighty Mouse, and you have a story about that.
Well, I mean, his stuff was really, he called himself a first of all, I just want to say, if you love Andy, go to the source and rent his stuff and see his shows. Don't read the crap written about him, and don't watch the bad stuff written about him. Did he think, I
want to do stand-up, or did he say, I want to do something different on purpose?
What was great about him was he called himself a children's entertainer. He started out by doing children's Saturday afternoon birthday parties in his neighborhood, and he always was introduced, he insisted, as a song and dance man. And if you said comedian, he'd walk out the door and not go on. And I said, I was so new at it, I said, why? And he said, because if they say you're a comedian, the audience is going to feel like it has to laugh. So I always say, you better say I'm a comedian. But I want to be called a comedian, so they have to laugh.
But it's like because he wanted to catch him by surprise?
Because he wasn't a comedian. He was, now it's called performance art in those days too, I guess. But he just was an entertainer. And that was it. He'd come out and sing. He'd do everything. He's so, the thing that's been missed, and look, I'm not trying to sell a book here because it won't even be out for 2 years. But the book I'm in the middle of is called Big Fun. And it is not about me, my childhood. It's not a biography. It's about the earliest years of that second golden age of comedy. The first was when TV hit. The second one was in the early 70s when it was a hobby for people. We all had day jobs, and it was, Andy Kaufman and Freddie Prinze and Jimmy Walker and Pryor was hitting, and Carlin was hitting, and Robert Klein was hitting, and Lily, and, Gabe Kaplan had gotten a show, and Belzer, and me, and, it was this, and Richard Lewis, and it was just this whole group of young for the first time, instead of hangdog husbands like on the Ed Sullivan Show. It was this young group in the early 70s that found this little dive, the original improv in Hell's Kitchen, which people...
And Bud Friedman was there.
Oh,
owned it, right?
Yes, and his wife had the idea for the club. Silver Friedman had been a chorus girl on Broadway and said, we should open a place where, show people after, Broadway, where the guys can come and play music and have some coffee and play piano. Dustin Hoffman used to come and play piano in the 60s before my time there. It was this little great dive, and so that's what it was for. And sometimes there'd only be 5 people for the whole night in the audience, and there was no time limit. Andy would come in and say, I need an hour tonight, and Bud would say, great, because then there were 3 people there, so it was like the perfect place to become what you were going to be. There was no cookie cutter stuff. I'm surprised you were able to be so outstanding in the comedy world you came up in, because by then it was regimented. There are so few people with the kind of personality and identity that just stands by itself. You just look at someone and he's funny. I put up a picture of you the other day on Facebook with your little dog. It was like 1,000 comments, and everyone had a line of yours. There's nothing else in the zeitgeist like that except the Seinfeld show where they know the references, and then you, where they know every reference, everything you ever
nice
said.
Of you to say it.
No, it's unbelievable. I'm so...
Well, when I got on Saturday Night Live, and I just remember thinking... they shoot in the Rockefeller Center on the 8th floor, the studio 8H, and there's 2 floors. The second floor is where the what do you call it, the rafter seating is, or the upstairs seating. So I went on the 9th floor, and right where you go in to the seats, there was a glass case, and it had a life mask of Eddie Murphy on his Gumby costume, and they had John Belushi's Bee costume. And I looked at that and I thought, what am I going to do? I go, I'm them. I can't do what they did, you know, and I was completely unknown. And I was like, well, I go, what am I going to do? And I just remember thinking, well, the only thing I can do is I can just be funny the way I'm funny, and either the audience will like it or not. And if they don't, I go, that's the end.
Look what you did.
But if they do, then, you know.
I'm sure there's something
like
of you in that showcase now. I mean, there's
well, no,
almost...
that's not there anymore. But, I mean, I that was just an accident. You know, I mean, it was a good thing I saw that, because a lot of people in the show, they were trying to be like the people that had been on the show before.
Right.
And they still do that, and it doesn't work.
No, that's not what any...
I mean, you have to be funny the way you're funny. And same with acting. You just got to... And it's tough because you think, but what if people don't like it? I go, well, then you know.
Then if you can't take it, you shouldn't be doing it. But I mean, what you were able to do, you know, when I'm not...
But nobody still is. I don't think ever is or will be like Andy Kaufman. Maybe somebody will be influenced by him, you know, but if you said he was influenced by, I'm like, I don't know. He just was so original.
Well, so many people like him, and they have an Andy Kaufman Award every year, and they give it to someone who they think is like Andy. No one can...
Well, I did comic relief when I first met you, and that was put together by... you know, Billy Crystal did it, and Robin Williams and Whoopi Goldberg, but the guy that put it together, I believe, was Bob Zamuda.
Right.
And then I remember Bob said to me, he goes, I used to also do Tony Clifton with Andy, and they didn't know it was me. And he said the big joke was, I think, that one time he went on TV, and Andy was at home watching, and everyone thinks it's Andy, and it's Bob, but it was like a many-layered joke, and that's like...
Well, here's what breaks my
brilliant.
heart about that.
But
Since we're having, you know, this is like a big scoop show today.
You know the real stories.
Well, and like I said, when the book comes out in 2 years, all the stories will be told in it's a love letter, really. And it's just all the great stories of the 70s, as we started to talk about. It's not about me, it's about what I saw.
No, I would want to hear that, because that's who I was in college at UC Irvine from 75 to 79, and I went to the Comedy Store in Westwood, I think it's 78, and that's when first time I'd ever been to a comedy club, and that's when I saw all those people you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's, you know,
that's who I was, you know.
And that's what changed comedy.
Tom Dreesen, David Letterman. It was the Comedy Store
in
Westwood.
LA, right?
David Letterman was
still talking about New York.
Yeah,
David Letterman was the MC.
He was the MC.
Yeah,
no one knew. I didn't know who he was.
And
I thought he was funny.
On that night. Yeah,
I remember he did a show about his wife's. He goes, my wife has huge feet because her shoes are canoes, and then I remember. Tom Dreesen got up and go, hey, is it horny in here? Is it just me? And I was just dying laughing and dying. And he was hilarious. Mike Binder was like 18.
Right.
Byron Allen was in high school. And now I'm doing a TV show for Byron Allen called Mr. Box Office. You know, but I saw him when he was in high school performing. And I'm trying to think who else. And I remember going to the Comedy Store, Richard Lewis.
Belzer, Richard Lewis.
Belzer, I met Richard
Jay
Belzer
Leno.
Later. Jay came to my college. I remember to perform. I interviewed him afterward.
Wow.
When I was 19.
Yeah.
I wish I had that tape.
Oh,
but those were your generation. Those are the people, you know, I'm not...
And I'm going back.
I'm only 5 years younger than you, but
But those 5 years, the New York scene was.
Yeah, but when you're 18, the guys in their 20s, 3s, they're the ones performing.
I know, and because I was stuck at the door as the hostess, I know every act backwards and forwards from those days.
So what were you saying about Tony Clifton or about?
The thing that breaks my heart, and that's lost now, and it's the reason I want to. And the book isn't just about Andy. Like I said, it's all the great stories of all the guys and women that were there then. And that nobody knows these stories because I had to stand at the door and say two, and I know the stories, and nobody knows them. So the thing that
There'd be 3 people in the club. You go table for 2. They go, oh, we're all full. So 2 people came in, table for 2. Then one more guy came in, a homeless guy. Yeah, you can sit down. That was your job.
That was my
tough job. No wonder you had time to learn all the acts.
I sure did.
Somebody wasn't working.
There was nothing to do.
You were the hostess, and 3 people came in at night. So what did
5. There were 5 people.
So what the hell did you do all night? You just watched the acts?
Oh, he kept me busy, bud. He didn't pay you to stand there. I had to pick up gum wrappers outside, and I mean, there's.
And your hair was curly then, wasn't it?
And it's, you know, it's going to be curly by the end of this interview because I see it moving up. I see, and I just want to mention the weight. I'm fat. Okay, but I'll lose it. But if Slim Fast is listening, pay me to lose it. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So, anyway, here's the thing that breaks my heart about Tony Clifton. The thing you have to know about Andy is that there was an innocence to him in real life and in his work, okay? And he worked on that innocence, and that's what he never wanted to lose. Tony Clifton was brilliant and never cursed. never cursed. That's why it was funny. If you had some slobbering, drunk, ugly guy going, fuck you and fuck this, it wouldn't have been the classic that he made it. What breaks my heart now is Muda doing Tony Clifton, and I saw him sit in the audience on the green room as Tony Clifton, Paul Provenza's show, and he's there going, fuck you, and I went, this isn't Tony Clifton. This is a disgusting slob completely destroying what was a beautiful creation, and it breaks my heart that he is allowed to destroy what Andy Kaufman created in such sublimity.
Call me crazy, but it sounds like Elayne Boosler and Bob Samuda were lovers. Am I wrong?
Well, I'd like to be so I can make him miserable.
Well, why don't you call Bob and say, hey?
I have nothing to do with what people do. I wish Andy's family would ask him to stop, because he doesn't have he's not Andy Kaufman. He doesn't have the delicate, beautiful
But is it true
touch.
that he was doing Tony Clifton too?
Yes, but Andy was alive to rein him in then.
But were they best friends too?
They were friends, but they weren't friends towards the end of Andy's life.
Oh, well, that's sad. I don't want to get into.
No, I don't think we should. I think we should talk about happy things. Because that's, why not? Why not? By the way, this is the only comedy club I've ever been in that looks beautiful in the daytime. You can't see a comedy club in the daytime. It's like seeing a hooker at noon. It's like, but this club's gorgeous.
Well, I hired a new manager, and I had him fix it up.
Yeah, did he do the painting and the little quaintness?
I had him get people to do it.
It's very, very lovely. Do you think Slim Fast will pay me to lose weight, or I just have to do it myself?
That's a joke. That's a joke. Someone else did it.
I was trying to get to 250, but I only made it to 175. Is there any pizza? I don't know.
Well, there's a great book called Body for Life by Bill Phillips.
Really?
Get that book.
Is that how you got all gorgeous?
Well, I've got a long ways to go, but I did. I lost 21 pounds.
Oh, gosh. Oh, the funniest thing I ever heard in my life. 12 years ago. No. The funniest thing I ever heard in my life was you. Do you know how, you'll hear something and it lasts for 20 years? This is maybe...
It's on Letterman?
Yes, the pound. Do you know about that?
Yeah, I did.
People tell you?
No, I knew, but I figured it was that.
I still tell people you did this. He goes on Letterman, and Dave, as usual, says, "Hey, you're looking great," and tell him what you did.
Well, because everybody would go on TV on those talk shows bragging about how they lost weight constantly, and I'm like, so what? You know?
Right.
It's not. You shouldn't have gotten fat in the first. I'm not proud that I gained it.
I know.
So I went on and I said. He
said, you look
do a
great.
pre-interview. He goes, you look great. And I go, well, he goes, no, he said, we would do a thing where every time I'd go on, he'd say something about, you always look different. And he goes, gee, every time you come to the show, you always look a little different. What is it? And I go, well, I'm wearing makeup.
Right.
And he goes, well, I'm wearing makeup. Because I go, I lost some weight recently. He goes, you did? I go, yes. 1 pound.
This is how I remember
but I feel great.
Okay.
My energy's up again.
Right.
No, but I feel great. My clothes fit again.
Okay, this is how I remember it, and this is how I tell it. You come on, you sit down, Letterman says, you look great. And you said, yes, I lost 1 pound since the last time I was here, and I've managed to keep it off. You said, I've managed to keep it off.
I don't remember
This is why I remember the story so well.
Maybe I did say that. I don't remember.
You did, and that's what's so funny about it.
Yeah,
I'm a good story remember. Emo Phillips, a great friend of mine, said, you know why you tell the best stories? Stories happen to people who can tell them. So, that's it.
I don't think I said I managed to keep it off, but I
you did, I swear. Okay, let's roll the tape. Roll the Letterman clip.
It might be on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah, I thought you said
I lost the weight, and I've managed to find it again.
You look great, especially sitting next to me. Here we are. Gosh, but I blame.
I can lose and gain 10 pounds. Watch this. Lose 10 pounds. Say gain 10
pounds. Lose 10 pounds. Fabulous. I'm sure I could do that, but I refuse. Lose 20 pounds.
Get it? Get it?
You cut your leg off?
No, not my leg.
Oh, I was trying to take the high road, but to no avail.
And you call yourself a comedian.
No, I don't.
Elayne, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk to you about your singing career.
You know what I'd rather do? I'd rather reenact the first half of the show. Could we reenact the first half of the show with accents?
The answer to that question is no. Thank you. But you do, and you're in politics. You do everything.
Yes, I do everything.
Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about that with Elayne Boosler. Excuse me, my lip has gas. We'll be right back with Lovitz or Leavitz on the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Upcoming shows to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FYI. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi, everybody. Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Hi, John Lovitz here. It's time to put laughter back into your life. Check out the John Lovitz Comedy Club, located in the heart of Universal Studios City Walk, Los Angeles, not Orlando. For tickets, go to thejohnlovitzcomedyclub.com. And we're back on Lovitz or Leavitz on the John Lovitz Vodcast Network, coming to you live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club and Podcast Theater at Universal City Walk. Well, we're recording this live, but by the time you see it, it won't be. Anyway, we're talking to Elayne Boosler. Elayne is a great stand-up comedian for the last 40 years.
40 years.
And yet you're only 35.
2. I know. How does that work?
I don't know.
I don't know.
You know what I wanted to ask you about was...
No. Can we do this for the rest? Who are
some of the women comedians today that you enjoy?
I enjoy all of today's women comedians. I still love Lily Tomlin, and I miss Shirley Hempel, and I wish Marsha Warfield would come back. I love Maria Bamford. You have a show running at your club now.
I saw Maria Bamford recently, and she was... Talk about unique.
She is amazing.
She's hilarious.
So hilarious and so great. Kathy Chappelle, who you have here, Jan Karam. You have a show here, which I
like
came
Sarah
to.
Silverman?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Sarah's hilarious.
Oh, God, do you have to ask? She's amazing. And, of course, you know, Tina Fey and Amy Poehler and, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so great now. But you have a show at your club now. I think the next one's October 10th, and it's the real women of comedy and one guy, so you have a guy on, but it's a rotating cast. I came and paid to get in last week because I wanted to support them. It was the best show
Let me ask you this question, because I don't understand this.
They were amazing.
Why is it when a woman is like, you know, cussing and talking about her private parts and stuff, except for Sarah, I find it like, it doesn't seem right. Like if a guy does that, he goes, "Oh, I have a big this," or I don't know. If there's a joke behind it, it's funny. When a woman does it, for some reason, it just comes off very crude to me.
Well, here's what I think. I think that funny's funny, and if it's funny, it'll be funny. And if it's not funny, then it's not funny. If a guy's crude and not funny, it's not funny either, just because it's a guy. It really, if it's funny, it's going to make you laugh. It's the art of how you write it and how you deliver it. You know, look, I work clean because I like it, and I get away with more and not cursing. But I love filth as long as it's funny. I'll go down as low as you want to go.
No, I don't have a problem with it either, but sometimes it seems...
Then they're not funny enough, that's all.
That's all?
That's all.
It's not because it's a woman?
Of course not. Of course not, you big dumb fuck.
All right. Well, I asked.
There you go. It just has to be funny. But there was a young lady on stage the other night here in the Real Women of Comedy and Some Guy show that you have here once a month on a Thursday of every month. She was Russian, and her name was...
Oh, yeah. She was very funny.
Rita?
No, that was Kashchit. Wasn't it?
No, Kathy Chappelle is not Russian. The Russian woman who does Leno a lot, you have to come up with her name for me because
now she was saying stuff like that, but I thought
but
she was funny.
Hilarious.
Very funny.
We want her. You have to come up with her name because she has to be. She
so
needs
you think
a shout
if you're
out.
just male or female, if you're just crude for crude's sake, there's no joke
There's
behind
no
it.
joke.
It's not funny.
You know, here's what I think: whoever can carry you out of the burning building gets to be the fireman.
I don't want to know what you think. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, I do. That's why you're here. Now, what about you? Write on the Huffington Post.
Kira, isn't it Kira? Kira what? Kira what? No, she needs her shout out.
I don't remember. Well, we'll get to it.
We'll get to it. But
what about you in the
fabulous.
Huffington Post? How'd that start?
It started with the Michael Richards event. He was getting killed, and I had a lot of opinions about it, so I wrote a piece, and then it got so much reaction, I thought, wow, I could make people hate me everywhere for no money. So I just kept writing for the Huffington Post, and it's a nice place to blow off steam, I think.
Are you in the comedy section of the Huffington Post?
I'm wherever the articles go. Sometimes I'm in the green section, the lifestyle section, the political section. I write a lot about animals because I run Tales of Joy, a 50-state animal rescue. So it depends on what the article's about. I don't really write much comedy for them.
Would you say the Huffington Post is a liberal
leaning?
Yes.
Of course it is.
Because, I voted for President Obama. Then I said some stuff about the taxes and in this club. And then people got mad at me. And then I said I was racist and all this. And I had nothing to do with race. I was talking about I think people are paying their fair share of taxes. And I said some comments. I called him a name. But it was in a comedy club. And it got a big laugh, And, of course, I think people took it out of they go, how could you say that? Bill O'Reilly goes, you disrespected The Office.
Office, yeah. Like they respected Bill Clinton's
like Bill O'Reilly rips him all the time. I said, it was in a comedy club. I just said it for effect. And I also said the president was amazing, what he's achieved in his life. But, the Huffington Post would go after me. And I finally said, the
They went after you first?
Yeah, and I said, I don't know who's in charge of the comedy section of the Huffington Post, but they have no sense of humor.
No. Well, they don't.
Then the guy got mad about that. They don't.
They don't really. They're not. Their comedy section is not very good, unfortunately. But it's a great forum for a lot of things. And, I think our job is to go after everything that we perceive to be not right, because I consider myself a very average human being. I didn't graduate high school. I don't have a further education. Everything I learn, I just, sop up like a sponge from everywhere. I think I'm a pretty average person. If something's bothering me, I think it's bothering other people. So if the taxes are bothering you...
when your mother's dancing in the middle of the living room, your dad's doing flips...
it's hard to learn.
Yeah, it's hard to learn.
I'm just saying our job is not to toe any party line. You can vote for the president, think he's an amazing person, and say some of these policies suck, which they do. It's our job is to tell the truth.
That's what, when I started doing stand-up, I would do my characters from Saturday Night Live, and it didn't work. And finally, I thought, they go, you should do stand-up. For years, Dennis Miller, I got on Saturday Night Live, you should be a stand-up. And which was flattering coming from Dennis. And Robin Williams, I met him. He said, yeah, you should be a stand-up. Eddie Murphy, yeah, you should be a stand-up. You could do it. But I thought you have to have something to say. And I had nothing to say. I was just into acting, movies, acting. That's all I thought about. So then, over 20 years, I started forming opinions. So I would say it. And that's what I do in my act now. And I found after that stuff I said about Obama, I said I find that the most closed-minded people are, quote, liberals. Because I've always been, say, quote, Democrat, but I think that people should vote for who they want, and if they want to be conservative, be conservative. If you want to be liberal, be liberal. That, to me, is a liberal way of thinking.
It is a liberal way
You should be
of
true to
thinking.
yourself, whatever that is.
Absolutely.
Not trying to change somebody's mind. The comments I got were unbelievable.
Well, I would argue that it's not the most closed-minded people are liberal. Everyone who's fundamentalist in any approach is certainly closed-minded on both sides. But yes, I think the liberals got mad at whatever you said because he's under fire so badly from the other side where they are paralyzed and won't let him do anything that they're figuring, why do we have to add to it? That's all. But
I agree with that, but the whole everyone's stuck.
You have to say your
Everyone's
truth.
getting screwed over because nothing's getting done.
That's right. And if you just go out there and espouse a party line that you don't believe in, then you're lying. And stand-up is nothing but your own truth. And even if it's just your own, like Andy, no one thought like Andy, but he knew how to do his thing.
To me, it's like if you're a comedian who's ever president, you're looking for stuff to say. If it's hypocritical or not true, you're going to make fun of him. I made fun of George Bush for 8 years.
Exactly.
And I never got any flack.
Yeah, well,
but
that's
it
right.
wasn't on a podcast that went viral, But I ripped the guy for 8 years.
Well, and there was plenty to rip, and there is now plenty to rip here, and our job is to rip it. Unfortunately, you can't just say it's all great. He's 100% great. He's not. There's a lot of bad stuff going on. A lot of it's not his fault because of what Congress has done to the office of the presidency. But you know what? You got to call it. You got to call it as you see it. And
you almost said something, and then you didn't
call it as you see it.
Well, I think you were going to say something else.
I think I was going to say you got to call it as you see it. Mm-hmm. But anyway, you know, if you don't tell your truth, then you just get busted. And then the audience doesn't come with you anywhere.
What are you writing about on the Huffington Post?
Well,
lately?
I haven't written the last couple of months. I'm just everything I do is free, and I'm kind of getting tired.
It's free.
Yes,
it's
they don't
free.
Pay you? They don't pay, and then when she sold it, she said she would start
they're
paying.
liberal. Mind you, I've been liberal my whole life. You know
I'm
what
a registered
I mean?
independent, by the way.
What I don't like. Okay, what I don't like is I don't like lying. I don't care who says it. That's what I don't like.
That's funny coming from you.
I'm not the liar.
Not today.
Elayne, if you notice, the liar, I hate lying, and I took everything that people do when they lie that you're not supposed to do when you lie and put that into that character.
It is magnificent.
So that's why it was funny to me, because he tells you he's a pathological liar, and then he just starts lying. And then I'm looking when you tell someone you don't want to get caught lying, you don't go, you don't pause, you don't go, where were you yesterday?
Yeah.
I was in Pacoima. You don't do that. It's just so obvious. And that's why.
Bad liars do. But that's what's so great. I mean, you have to understand, what's lost in comedy, and you're the only one who still has it. In the old days.
Well, thank you. I don't know.
Well, maybe I'm saying a terrible thing, though, is lost. No,
I know. A large penis.
That's it. It's lost in. Since Milton Berle died, you're the only one with a large penis now. So, and you lost 20 pounds when you cut it off.
And by the way, I don't go around saying I have a big dick. I don't go around saying
No, everyone else says it for you. I know
everyone.
that.
I remember Milton Berle said to me, he goes, and I thought I had a big dick.
Oh,
we were in a steam room.
Hilarious.
He goes, that is like...
Oh, really? Oh,
he goes,
see?
that's ridiculous.
And did you just take out enough to win?
Well, that's what he did with Forrest Tucker. I was just laying there, and he goes, are you joking? I said, this is nothing. I said, one time... to me, it's not even anything to brag about, because when you're in bed with a woman, like you get out of the pool and it's freezing water and you're naked and you get out and it shrivels up to 12 feet. Is
this why you were the representative of Subway?
Yeah.
You did the Subway commercials because of the 12-inch sandwich thing?
Well, yeah, but that was like, that's me. Like,
was that when they were doing the
I've never been
thing?
that small. But a woman doesn't want to make love to a man with a 12-foot penis. And a lot of this is people go, did you gain weight? I go, no, it's just wrapped around.
Of course, you have a comb over, you have a dick over.
There you go.
You have a cock over.
Elayne, who always works clean.
He has a cock over. I do work clean. I believe in the writing for the art. Not to say I won't go anywhere with anyone who's funny, but
who's doing the switching? You, Mark?
I want Kira's last name. There is a comedian.
Is everything a slow fade when you switch?
What's Kira's last name? Bogdanovich? Spell it. Oh, what is it? What's the letter it
it's
starts with?
It's in the system to slow cross fade. That's a setting. You can set it to switch fast.
Folktanovich?
No. Wait 3 more shows and then get on it.
Voktanovich? Sultanovich.
Hey, I have an idea. Why don't we switch it so when you switch, it goes to a blackout? Why don't we do that?
So you
and then when I
mind?
complain about it, get mad at me and go, I'll get right on it.
You're upsetting the fish behind us. Let them just swim
Lord
along.
Jesus.
Kira Soltanovich is one of the funniest comedians I have seen in forever. And you want to go
And she
pay?
has a big dick?
She has a huge dick. Huge
Isn't that
dick.
what we were talking about?
Yes. Kira Soltanovich, you want to go pay and see her wherever you see her name. Go out and see her
How do
show.
we get
She's
this from the
brilliant.
Huffington Post to a big dick?
Do you have to be this lateral? Can't you jump around? No, your dick's too big. You're grounded.
Does the Huffington Post ask you to write stuff for them, or do you just think of something and submit it?
Usually you think of something and submit it, but on things like holidays, they'll ask you and say, can you give us a piece about this? We're doing a roundup of different, celebrities.
And they still don't pay you?
No, but the thing is, they said they would start paying some of us regulars when it's sold, and then it's sold, of course, to, for $dollars. And we didn't get paid. So I do it when I have something to say, but I don't knock myself out to do it.
Yeah, that's not right.
So what you have from the old days, that doesn't happen. In the old days, the real old days, like silent film, Buster Keaton, you knew exactly who he was. He was that character. Charlie Chaplin.
Well, you lost. Wait,
Harold
you're switching.
Lloyd. And there's like so few identifiable. Rodney had it. You knew exactly who he was. People see you, they just start to laugh. It's like it all comes out of what you've created. No comedians have that.
That's very flattering.
I have to go on stage and be really funny, or I don't get a freebie. You have this identity that is so. It's like you could stand next to that whole row of silent film comics and just fit right in there because everybody knows who, what exactly you are, and why what the funny is there. And I'm not getting paid for today, so I have no reason to say this unless I felt it.
Well, Elayne, that's very nice of you to say it. I'm very flattered.
So can I see that penis now?
I would think so. Actually, you've been touching it this whole time.
Oh, see, I thought it was a Herman Miller, but it's you.
Did you think this was a table?
I did.
It's not. We'll be right back with Elayne Boosler on Lovitz or Leavitz.
Upcoming shows to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FYI. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick. Hey, everybody, welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi, everybody. Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Hi, John Lovitz here. It's time to put laughter back into your life. Check out the John Lovitz Comedy Club, located in the heart of Universal Studios City Walk, Los Angeles, not Orlando. For tickets, go to thejohnlovitzcomedyclub.com. Hello, we're back on Lovitz or Leavitz. I'm John Lovitz. My guest is Elayne Boosler. We're here at the John Lovitz Comedy Club and Podcast Theater, Universal Studio. Go to our website. We have great shows. We have other shows on the John Lovitz Vodcast Network, by the way. FYI, which is a sports show with baseball players Robert Young. No, not Robert Young. Robert Fick and Dimitri Young. Sorry. And one show called Talking Marijuana. I don't like pot, but these people, they can't get enough. And they want to make it legal for medical marijuana, which I understand it can help a lot. But also joining Elayne is this is a very familiar dog to me.
Tell them his name.
This is my dog, Jerry Bruckheimer,
Jr.
the third.
The third, not Junior.
And he's a rescue dog. And Elayne, I want to talk to you. You have a whole rescue company that you started called
Tales of Joy. I've been rescuing for 17 years, and it's nationwide, and it's at Tails, Tails, talesofjoy.net. So if you need help, email us at talesofjoy.net or check out the website, and it's wonderful. We just support the smallest, neediest rescue organizations across the country. 3 women saving cats in Ohio save a zillion more cats than the Humane Society of the United States, which is nothing but a fundraising juggernaut. If you want to, really save animals, donate locally or donate to us, because we vet every single organization across the country, and on a most needed basis, we give out our little guy grants and help all the time, and we help people keep their animals now that the economy is bad. If you have an emergency, we'll help you with that. So it's a wonderful thing.
Tales of Joy. It's a fundraising.
Tales of Joy. It's fundraising, and we do some hands-on as well, and events.
How did you get into this in the first place?
I just always loved animals, and I was always writing checks. And, of course, I was on the road 50 weeks a year, and I'd go visit all the little rescues in the country. And I would talk to them, and I'd realize these people are fantastic. They're saving lives. It's out of their own pocket. If they had a little help fundraising, they could do so much. And so I started raising money for all these people across the country. And he is so adorable. I could just
I know. It's like he's sitting on your lap. It's like he's trying to help sell the organization.
Because a little guy like this might have been killed in a shelter.
Let's see him again.
But
hold him up a little.
John bought him from a little pet store that only sells animals from the shelter. So he saved his life instead of him getting killed in a shelter. I know, it's that liver lipstick I've been using. He loves it. Animals are the best, and I think it's getting into the zeitgeist that you rescue, you don't buy. Because, we want to put puppy mills out of business. They're just factory farming of dogs, and they're awful. And this way, you can get
I never even knew about puppy mills till about, I think, 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's pretty depressing.
I got them at the pet store. It's called a Pet Paws. It's at the Beverly Glen Center in Los Angeles.
Yeah, they only sell
They changed
dogs.
to rescue.
Yeah, well, that's the law in L.A. now, that you have to only sell dogs from the shelter.
It is?
Yes.
It's the law?
We're so lucky that L.A. passed that law. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, yeah. So there's a few people
holding out. So now you're saying every
out.
pet store is a rescue
store? Well, no,
store?
you have to check, because a few people, God bless you, are holding out. I think you're allergic to your dog. Excuse me. They'll forgive
Well, I went into the store because it was a regular pet store and it was gone, and then they had this rescue. I went in. They go, "We're a rescue pet store." I said, "Where do you get these animals?" They go, "From high kill shelters."
High kill shelters.
Well, that phrase, "high kill shelters," is like, I was, oh.
Well,
I go, "What do you mean?" They go, "They kill 50 a day." I was like, oh.
We kill. No one knows for sure, but
horrible.
America kills between 5 and 10 million adoptable dogs and cats a year, simply for lack of space. If people would just spay and neuter, we'd stop it way at the top. That's all. People say, they eat dogs in China. They kill them for food. And my answer is, we kill them for nothing. For nothing. Just lack of space.
You're saying at least we could eat them.
We could at least eat them.
Or sell them to China.
Eat them, sell them to China, make some money, cook them up.
I could eat you.
We could eat you on bread. I just, if you're not covered in dog hair, your life is empty. That's my view. You have to you gotta love a doggy. Everybody wants to love a doggy. He wants to be with his dad. In cat, we help everything. We support wildlife foundations and sea life and burros and horses. There's so much, and I think what was it, Albert Einstein?
Burros, horses, and sea life.
Sea life. We.
Hey, I'll tell you a story. I was renting a place on the beach. So one day, in the afternoon, someone goes, "Look, there's a dolphin," and there was I guess a teenage dolphin.
Really?
Swirling in the surf, couldn't swim.
Oh.
And we spent 2 hours rescuing this. We called the rescue center. They came down after like 2 hours. We got it out of the water, and then we kept pouring water on it, and there was a girl there from the rescue center. And then a van came from SeaWorld.
Oh, no.
And we were in Malibu to
That's
pick up
like
the dolphin.
Train to Auschwitz.
Yeah, they picked up the dolphin, and then we found out the next day they killed it. And it was like, we just spent all this time saving this thing, and then they picked it up, and then they just killed it. Why would they do that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he was, maybe he was sneaking.
He had scratch marks on him, and teeth, and they said he was kicked out of his pod, which I didn't. I go, "What's that?" And they go, "Well, dolphins, it's not a podcast. He didn't have a radio show."
He was
It's not
kicked
like
out
he's
of
golfing his own
He was
show.
kicked out of his podcast. That's
Could
what
have his
happened.
pod.
He was
Dolphins
cast out of his
travel
pod.
in big groups of, like,
Yeah.
say, 30. They're called pods. So they think he was kicked out.
Well, gee, then they should.
And he was in the back of this van, this Dolphin, and I'm back there looking at him, and all of a sudden, like, you could tell it was shaking. It was scared, and it like made this noise like a scared human being. And I was like, now you wouldn't think a dolphin.
No, they
is like a
communicate
person,
pretty well. They are
but I
like
mean, he
people.
was like, he went like.
They communicate.
He was like
really
making
well.
this noise, and there's no question he was shivering.
No,
he was
because
scared.
he read the truck and it said SeaWorld and he knew. I mean, if you see the new movie, which is amazing.
I thought he was going to be saved by SeaWorld.
Yeah,
you know?
see the Blackfish movie and see how SeaWorld, takes all whales and dolphins out of their pods.
Elaine, you
What?
can't say that.
You can't?
It's African American fish.
Oh, African American fish and African American water Americans. The fish?
Yeah.
Don't they have to be water Americans? Like you can't say fish, can you?
Now you're being ridiculous.
Okay, can we
You
start
can
this
say
whole
fish.
segment over? Let's start this whole segment over from before the SeaWorld thing.
I can't believe that
Okay,
you're a
so here's-
liberal Jew, and you said
African American Sea Americans. Look what I'm doing. You want to see that? Is it too soon? Is it too soon to
no.
see
It's
that?
the Glendale Philharmonic, and the name of the show. It's a world premiere that you wrote with. Oh, sorry. With.
No.
What an idiot. The guy's shaking his head like, oh, no. See, in a real studio, you have a red light on top of the camera so you know what camera you're on.
This is more fun.
But he's rolling his eyes
This
because
is
I
more
looked
fun.
at the wrong camera.
Roll eyes. Didn't someone yell roll
Nothing
eyes?
like having a supportive staff behind you in the middle of a show.
I know. I'm gonna. If you're at home, put your magnifying glass in front of this. So you can, anyway, it's the Glendale Philharmonic.
Here, give me this.
I wrote a piece. Yay! It's called Rescue, a True Story. I wrote the book. Carol Worthy wrote the music. She's a fabulous classical composer. And the piece is the first piece in history written for piano, clarinet, cello, and comedian. I wrote the story and I'll do the narration. It's October 6th, 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. Bring the kids. There's free cake. What more do
You
you
can't
need
read a
to
damn
know?
thing on this thing.
Of course not. Too much information. TMI. October 6th, Glendale.
Have you been rehearsing your show?
Yes, we've been rehearsing. It's excellent. The musicians are incredible. They all
Oh.
speak with accents.
Speaking of musicians,
Yes.
I want to bring this up before I just remembered something.
What?
So now, for those of you wondering, Elaine's married, unavailable, and you're married to Bill Siddons, who is the manager of the rock group The Doors.
He was the only manager they had when Jim was alive.
Do you have any stories about that?
Millions, but
Can you tell us a couple?
when I come back, I will.
No, tell us now. We'll have you back.
I know. What? You know, I.
Well, I
should
don't
have
know.
known.
You know the stories.
I know. Well, I mean, if he could remember anything, we'd have.
Well, what
really
was
good
Jim
book.
Morrison really like?
Well, the way Zmuda portrays him, Bob Zmuda, is not the way Jim was.
Bob Zmuda portrayed. Oh, it's a joke. I'm a little slow.
I do not like the way Zmuda is portraying Jim Morrison, and I think Dick Ebersol
When
really,
Jim
really
Morrison
killed
passed
Jim
away, what did
because
they know what he really passed away
he
from?
said he had a heart attack, and Bill.
At 27?
Well, yes, because when you abuse substances or drink, it does wear you out. Janis Joplin died.
But I mean, he must have really.
Janis
at
Joplin
27.
died at 27. Jimi Hendrix died at 27.
Yeah, I know, but
Morrison, Kurt Cobain, 27 is the magic age.
Well,
for
Kurt
some
Cobain,
reason.
he unfortunately killed
Yes,
himself.
but 27
How do you
seems
have a
to
heart
be the-
attack at 27?
You can have a heart attack if you drank a lot and stopped or didn't stop.
Was he friends with Jim Morrison?
Oh, gosh, of course. His stories. What's wonderful in being in L.A. with my husband is we'll drive around and he goes, oh, that's the tree that Jim hit with the Shelby 460. He'll see Jim's old cars riding around in L.A. and he'll go, that was Jim's, people still have the cars.
Well, can you tell us a couple interesting stories about the Doors?
Gosh.
You said you have thousands of them.
I do have thousands.
I only want to hear two.
They're more Bill's stories, so I mean, he tells them better, and he knows the details better. I know. Well, here's one. Okay, here's
I
one.
want to see something. I want to see something.
Here's one.
Oh, now.
I'll only tell the Doors story.
Now. There we go. Get it? Go
I'll tell
ahead,
the door
Elayne.
story if people come out on October 6th.
Yes, Elayne.
To the Glendale Philharmonic to see the world premiere of my piece, Rescue a True Story, done with three
All right, so tell us a
fabulous
story about the
musicians.
Doors.
Okay, so Jim, of course, was married to Pam.
Of course.
Of course. You know,
Pam who?
his
Wife?
his wonderful girlfriend,
Oh, I
wife
didn't know
for
he was
many,
married.
many years. And, well, when Jim died, they had a little kind of walk-up place in Paris, and he died in the bathtub in Paris. And it was daytime when, you know, it was time to go out and buy a coffin, and it was a flight of stairs up. And Pam and a very good friend...
Wait a minute. They weren't going to buy a coffin. Wait, he died and then...
He died in the bathtub, and so Pam and her friend had to go pick out a coffin so he could get buried, and Bill was immediately flying in from the States. And I forget the friend, I apologize. See, that's why Bill should tell his own stories. But anyway, it was a kind of a narrow staircase up, and when Pam and this lovely friend went to get a casket for Jim, you know, in bright daylight, like 10 o'clock in the morning, Pam said to the man selling the casket, "Now remember, do not deliver this until midnight tonight. If there's a coffin against our door, people will know Jim died. We don't want that. We don't want a mob. We don't want, you know, we want our privacy. Just, you have to promise that you won't deliver this coffin till midnight." And the guy said, "Of course." And they went out and had some breakfast and came back at 11 or noon, and the coffin, of course, was propped up against the outside of the door. So, you know, it's hard.
Giant mob scene.
Yeah, well, you know.
Why do they mark up his grave, do you think? Don't
They love him. They think he was a party guy, and they want to tell him that they were there. It's why Jews put a pebble on the stone. You know, when you go visit, you put a pebble on the headstone to let him know you came by. I think they just want some kind of connection to someone who they see as a folk hero.
Who made that up? The Jews put a pebble.
You don't know that?
No.
What kind of self-hating Jew are you?
I'm not
You don't know
self-hating.
you put a pebble on the headstone. What do you think? You put a pebble on... Why have you seen pebbles
Yeah,
on
and then
headstones?
any normal Jewish person goes, "Get that pebble off of me."
Well, of course, they do it to upset them. They want it to bother them. You put a pebble on a headstone. That's how they know you were there.
Did Jim Morrison and Pam, did they have a kid?
No.
Because one time I was at the House of Blues, and they introduced this guy, and they said, "This is Jim Morrison's son."
And was it Bob's Muda?
No. And I went, "His son?" I didn't know he had a kid.
He didn't.
And they go, "Here's so-and-so Morrison."
Yeah.
And then he sang, and he was a
has,
young blonde-haired kid, about in his 20s. And I go, "Oh, he had a kid? I didn't know that." Anyway, he sang. He sounded exactly like him.
Well, there's a James Morrison who was his nephew, so that could be, or his.
Does he sing and sound just like him?
It's possible. See, that's why you need Bill here. I'm not good at this stuff.
So you never knew this was before?
Oh gosh, yeah. It's you know.
But he
way
knew the
long
band.
ago.
Did you sleep with Ray Manzarek, who sadly passed away recently?
Only lately. I only slept with him lately.
Did you? What about Robbie
Oh,
Krieger?
lately. After I met my husband, then I got to sleep with everyone.
Then you slept with the band?
Yeah, but not before. Not
So you're
before
like
I
Patty
met Bill.
Darvinville. You slept with the band.
Do you know where I met Bill? At Clinton's
No.
inauguration. That's where.
You did?
Mm-hmm. It was the night before the inauguration. I was hosting the Constitution Hall Gala, a 4-hour show in Constitution Hall, and Bill had Crosby, Stills, and Nash on the bill. Crosby and Nash on the bill. So he was there, and we met that night. And then the next day, we all went to the inauguration together. Graham Nash, his wife Susan, Bill and me, the four of us. And Bill had no interest in me. You know, he's talking about his ex-girlfriend. And I thought, oh, well, fine, I have no interest in you. And we're sitting at the inauguration. Oh, but this is such a good story.
Keep going. You can keep
Okay,
going.
we're sitting at the inauguration, and it's, you know, a freezing, beautiful day in January. And I'm sitting next to Bill, who I don't know at all. And
Bill, your husband, not Bill Clinton.
No, Bill, my husband-to-be.
Right,
But this
who
is
you
like
don't
the
know.
first day I've met
So you're
him.
sitting next to Bill Siddons.
Bill
At
Siddons.
Bill Clinton's inauguration.
At Bill Clinton's inauguration. And I'm sitting next to Bill Siddons, and Maya Angelou steps out to do the poem that she wrote for the inauguration, and she became the Poet Laureate of the United States that year. And I think it was
Yes.
called, On the Wings of Morning, or on... Anyway, it was magnificent. And, you know, she's deliberate in her delivery. So here I am sitting next to the stranger who doesn't know me at all, has no interest in me.
And
She
you both
steps
started
out.
laughing.
No. She steps out and she says, starts her poem and says, "A tree, a river, and a rock." And she stops, and I lean over to Bill Siddons and I say, "Walk into a bar." And he says that he thought, "I'm going to marry her."
You said that.
I did. She took so long. She broke for so long. It's horrible to live with a comic. Nothing is safe.
Oh, my God. I would have been laughing the whole time.
Oh, he died.
That would have been horrible.
He got
Was
hysterical and said in his head, I'm going to marry her. And that was it. It was such a magnificent... We're all crying, and then he's laughing, you know. That's what it's like to marry a comic.
Ruined the most beautiful
I ruined it.
moment.
That's my job. I ruin everything.
My aunt was reading her beautiful poem.
I ruin everything. That's my job. I made 40 enemies here today. No one's talking to me anymore. Half the people are attacked here today.
Look, it hasn't.
You'll never talk to me again.
You know, who knows? Maybe you'll help.
Oh, Eric, who cares? Nobody likes me anyway. What the hell?
Well, Elayne, we'd love to have you back. I'm sure you have more stories.
Wait till you see if they vote me on or off first, and then we'll decide.
I am the only one that votes. Anyway, thank you so much.
Oh,
It's terrific.
Pleasure.
I'm really honored that you were here.
I'm honored to be sitting with you in daylight. I came out in daylight just for you.
Thank you. I don't know.
Yeah, well.
Thank you.
Yeah, well.
Elayne Boosler, everyone, on Lovitz or Leavitz, and we'll see you next week with someone else. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye. See you on October 6th in Glendale at the Philharmonic. Ooh.
And I'd like to thank my other guest, Jerry Bruckheimer III. My dog.
Nice dog.
Thank you, Jerry, wherever you are.
And go to talesofjoy.net and buy something and save a life.
Upcoming shows to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FY. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick. Hey, everybody, welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi, everybody. Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Hi, John Lovitz here. It's time to put laughter back into your life. Check out the John Lovitz Comedy Club, located in the heart of Universal Studios City Walk, Los Angeles, not Orlando. For tickets, go to thejohnlovitzcomedyclub.com.